Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. I'm Gian Martinez. I'm the co-founder CEO of Winnin. Winnin today is the global leader on behavioral cultural intelligence. Just to give you a sense, 8 out of the 10 world's largest CPGs use Winnin technology to identify emerging demands and make growth and brand strategic decisions. But unless you're one of our clients, it's probably very true that you never heard about Winnin before, and that's totally fine. Because today the presentation isn't really about Winnin, but it's about something we've been learning after analyzing over a decade of cultural behavior across countries all around the world. And what we've learned challenges the state of the current marketing intelligence stack. Because despite we have more data than ever, more dashboards than ever, more AI helping us than ever, growth remains increasingly hard to find. And we're gonna understand why. And today I would like to do 3 things. First, I will take you through the problem. And we're gonna go deeper to understand what is the root cause behind that problem. Why the current marketing intelligence stack has some very important blind spots that is holding back growth. Second, I'm gonna introduce you to behavioral cultural intelligence, which is this new intelligence model based on observed human behavior at scale. And third, I'm gonna share some real examples, some real case studies. And those examples will bring to life massive growth opportunities that were very clearly visible in behavioral cultural intelligence before they were visible in markets. And they ended up delivering billions of dollars in value to the companies who embraced those opportunities. But let's start with the current scenario. Gartner shared with us, with all of us, that the marketing investment stalled in 7.7% of the total revenue of the companies. And more than half of the CMOs says this budget isn't enough to do everything we need to do in today's world. Much more complex, much more fragmented, with all those different things going on at the same time. But what we've learned and what we're gonna see today, that the real problem isn't budget. The real problem brands and companies are facing is a lack of clarity on direction. And more often than we think, more investment doesn't translate into more growth. And I'm gonna share a data to make that point with you. So just to explain where this data is coming from, one of the key sources at Winnin for us to map behavior at scale is by understanding something we call attention data. So we've mapped it over the last 10 years what everyone had chosen to watch in video across platforms all around the world. I mean, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, and so on and so forth. Because if we are able to understand what people are choosing to spend their time with, their attention with, we're gonna have some very interesting insights on what's truly relevant for people. And when we look at this data aggregated over the last 12 months, this is the scenario. In purple, we are seeing everything that was done by brands in their campaigns, in their own channels, through paid partnerships with influencers, creators, and so on and so forth. And in green, we are seeing everything that was done about brands, but by people, user-generated content. And the reality is that brands, even with the billions of dollars invested behind their marketing, they are captured over 50% of the share of viewership, again, boosted by paid media, but they were not being able to capture even the 30% of the share of engagement. And as you all probably know, conversion happens much more on that side of the table. So let me make a quick exercise here. Who have bought a car over the last 3 years? Please raise the hand. Oh, yeah, many of us. And during your path to purchase, which one of you have went online and watched some videos to see if the cars you're thinking about to purchase was good or not? Please raise your hand. Almost everyone. This is the new shopping journey. Before making important purchase decisions, people watch content online. And what this data is telling us is that most of the content people are watching is not the content the brands are doing, but the content that people are doing about brands. And again, it's not more investment that will solve this problem. First, we need to solve the direction problem. Brands need more clarity to understand where to play, how to play, to make sure those numbers are going to look very different. And this is a paradox, because again, we are in this world where brands have more data than ever, right? More signals than ever, but there's this lack of clarity. And again, we started this company 12 years ago, so Winnin is an AI company way before the hype of AI. So everything we're sharing with you today, we didn't start it yesterday. And something we've validated across industries, across countries, with those leading brands worldwide, is that there's a specific root cause why the current state of marketing intelligence stack has problems. And this root cause goes behind this key assumption. When we look at the data source brands use to make strategic decisions, most of it are declared data. They are survey-based research, they are social listening, they're mapping mentions, which is great for crisis management, but haven't solved the relevance gap. So brands are making decisions based on what people say, what people declare. But what we've learned at looking at behavioral data is that more often than we think, what people say is quite different versus what people do. And I'm gonna use my example. In the last 3 years, unfortunately, I must say, I've been spending a lot of my share of attention watching videos about how can I stop losing my hair. It's real, I'm there. And different versus my friend here, Christian and Carlos, I don't look good without hair. I tried, I went to the AI thing, I said, no, I really don't look good. And they look great, you know? So I've been watching content on, okay, how can I solve this problem? And this is capturing my share of attention. This is relevant for me. This is a behavior I'm doing that I don't go anywhere and say, hey, everyone, I'm really into solve this problem. And usually those hidden behaviors, they're very connected with real consumer pain points, with real consumer problems that until this day were more often than we think a blind spot for companies. And this is the case for this new marketing intelligence model that we call behavioral cultural intelligence. And when we look back at history, the reality is that every intelligence revolution started with a better signal. We started there with all those amazing research, survey-based research, and they are great, they were very informative. And then we started to use those social listening solutions, and again, they added a layer of signals. And believe me, I've used them a lot. Before I started Winnin, I used to work at Coca-Cola for 7 years. I was leading their creative team first in Brazil, then at a global level, and I had access to the very best of the survey-based research, the listening tools, and so on and so forth. As all of our clients, they have access to the very best. But once you start to see what's truly going on in behavioral data, you realize how big that gap was. And this is only possible with today's technology. And I'm gonna talk more about this later. But before talking about that, because it goes into a more technical conversation, I wanna share the real case studies. And I wanna share some real examples on how behavioral cultural intelligence have been applied to transform business results at scale, at a global level. When we look back on the key growth strategic decisions brands must make, at the end of the day, there are 4 key decisions that every brand must have on the table. The first one is understanding where is the demand, and what are those emerging demands, And in today's world, as you know, more fragmented, more liquid, more complex than ever, there are multiple demands rising right now in every industry. And brands struggle to size them, not only to find them, but to size them, to understand which one of them they should prioritize, and so on and so forth. Because after mapping those demands, you need to understand where your product and your brand can win. Where do you have an authentic, credible, meaningful role to play? And that is connect your brand and product DNA, your brand and product truth, with what people really need. Once you can answer those two things, things becomes much more clear, I promise. Then you have a third question, which is, okay, but how we're gonna activate against that opportunity? How we're gonna connect this product with this demand with people? What are the passion points, the communities, the rituals where we can be relevant? And making those decisions, and I promise, and I'm gonna give you some real examples, what we've learned help brands to earn share of attention. Share of attention is a metric we've developed in partnership with our clients. So Coca-Cola is scaling share of attention worldwide. Unilever is scaling share of attention worldwide. And in a nutshell, the reason why, because they saw the correlation. When they grow share of attention, business growth. The key metrics grow. When they go down, a problem happens. And to put in very simple terms what it is basically the ability to map on the open sea of culture everything that people were spending their attention with your brand versus your competitors, both in own channels, paid partnerships with influencers, and UGC, taking out the negative sentiment, understanding the behavior across categories, across countries to normalize and so on and so forth. You can go deeper on that. You can visit us on our booth, 121, and we'll explain more about it. But those are the 4 decisions like brands need to make. And this is what we've developed here at Winnin, and this is why all those companies are scaling this solution worldwide. In a nutshell, basically what AI enabled us to do, and we developed this proprietary model over the last decade, is first compare where's the demand in terms of organic behavior versus what brands are doing. And very often, we see massive growth white space. Things that are very relevant for people that brands were completely ignoring, or things that brands were activating but not in the right way. Second is this affinity intelligence, this ability to understand your brand, your positioning, your product and service DNA, and see if you do have fit or not with that opportunity. Third is to map the behavior of the communities around that demand. What are the specific communities and passion points, and how they behave around that opportunity? And we're going to see on the examples that comes to mapping predictively their cultural calendar. Oh, that demand explodes in December. That demand explodes in the beginning of winter, and so on and so forth. And last but not least, measuring the whole thing. So far, so good, right? So let's go to the real examples, I promise. And I think we're all here, our Gartner, to see what is the very best going on out there, right? And more than theory, nothing communicates better than we see real examples. So I'm going to share 3 case studies. The first one is with InBev. Someone from InBev here? InBev is one of our largest and longest clients. They were early adopters of Winnin, so we were key global partners in the last 7 years to their global marketing transformation. They've been through a massive and beautiful journey. 4 years ago, our demand intelligence brought something to the table that the traditional marketing intelligence couldn't clearly see. That the demand for non-alcohol beer was rising in culture. And we're also showing that, their portfolio was not necessarily serving against that opportunity. A year later, say, okay, let's do this. And we helped them with their entire portfolio, but specifically they had one brand in their portfolio that had an amazing right to win against that opportunity. And that was Corona. And we help them through the whole journey of building and launching Corona Cero. I don't know if you've tried, but I love Corona Cero. It's the best liquid. So it's a tip, it's amazing. But we helped them to launch Corona Cero with vitamin D, because it was a vitamin needed in countries where there's a lack of sun. And there was a massive hunger. Later, we helped them also to map the passion points and help Corona to evolve from a very niche strategy. So they used to do in music, for instance, Corona Sunset, which is a beautiful music festival, but that was touching very few people. And they were like embracing surf, which was amazing, but again, it was kind of niche. And we helped them to take Corona to the main entertainment stage. So they closed the deal with the Olympic Games. It was the very first time ever a beer brand did a global deal with the Olympic Committee. And they were only being able to do that because they had the Zero, the Corona Cero offer. And the rest is history. The brand is breaking all the records. It's the fastest growing beer worldwide. All the most valuable beer around the world, awards you can imagine. Corona is leading the way. That wasn't the case 5 years ago. There was another brand leading those charts. The last quarter, when Michelle, the CEO, announced their Q1 results, in a context where the category was facing some headwinds, InBev is leading the category growth. Their volume is growing, their value is growing, and the Zero offer has become one of their growth engines. This is a great example of applying everything we've discussed. And again, when they're looking at the traditional market intelligence stack, not everyone was saying, yeah, I'm really into zero alcohol beer, So another example is from Unilever. Unilever, also a beautiful and amazing partner of ours, scaling to multiple countries. I think we're close to 50 countries now using our technology with multiple BUs and so on and so forth. But I'm gonna share one very specific example around cleaning. One of the things our data was sharing in terms of demand was this opportunity of new cleaning rituals rising in culture. And people are very interested around those new cleaning rituals. And brands were all very focused on the core, hardcore kind of cleaning. And there were multiple ritual opportunities there, but one of them, and this is the video you're seeing here, was the ritual of cleaning your sneakers, white sneakers like mine. And the younger generation, they were very obsessed about sharing those tips and say, you know what? This product is great to clean your white shoes. And guess what? Many of them was talking about Cif. Cif was already there organically. The brand has a massive right to win over there. But this wasn't visible, this wasn't clear, this wasn't anywhere they were looking before. So again, big demand rising where the brand has the right to win. But then after that, we have them to map what territory and culture they could connect with to accelerate that growth path. And what the data brought to the table was very interesting. They were saying, when you look predictably to the sneak cleaning calendar, there's tempo moments, and you're usually very connected with music festivals. Because something that is happening in cultures that people take to the, to the Coachellas and Lolas of the world, the sneaker they're gonna throw in the day after. Because, it ended up very dirty. And say, okay, let's give a try. So imagine a cleaning brand became a sponsor of a music festival. And they became the sponsor of your clean shoe after the festival. That was a home. And the brand started to grow double-digit, record sales, and so on and so forth. If you read Unilever Global's earnings last year, they're gonna share how Cif was one of the key brands behind the growth they saw in volume last year. And not only that, they were leading big time the share of attention. This was case started in Brazil, and now it's scaling to multiple countries. There's someone from L'Oreal here? Another amazing client of ours. We're building some very, very, very cool, successful stories together. And this is particularly interesting because in this case, they, many years ago, understand that there was a demand going on. They created an amazing product. They launched that product. But when people were doing budget allocation, they were not prioritizing that product because they all thought with their data that that behavior was very niche. So they were putting their dollars behind bigger brands like La Roche-Posay, CeraVe, and so on and so forth. And that brand was the skin. And they have a specific product called PTOX, which is an amazing product. But long story short, what happened is that when they started to access the demand intelligence, they saw that a very different number versus what they're seeing in their current intelligence stack. Actually, that thing of procedures was mainstream, was actually the number one most relevant topic people are choosing to spend their attention with. And this is what you're seeing here. Massive, but almost any brand focusing on that opportunity. And then on the affinity intelligence, we show them, you already have the product, and it's PTOX from SkinCeuticals because it's organically going viral with that community, and they embrace it. And the territory intelligence show it, and we look at that behavior predictively. The best way, if you want to do a pilot, is December, because in the last 3-4 years, December is when there's like this moment behind Botox. And they did it. And that brand became not only the number one most relevant topic within the Botox culture, but achieved record sales and grew big time. So probably after this speech, you're gonna start to see PTOX in your Instagram. I'm sorry about that. That might happen. So, okay, so those are just few examples. A bunch of others we can share on finance, on healthcare, and so on and so forth. But now I want to explore why this was not possible until today. Why it was really, really, really hard to understand behavior at scale before the technology that now is available for you guys. In the last 10 years, we've been building this thing, this proprietary behavioral data set. Understanding where people are spending their attention with across platforms, all around the world, and so on and so forth. On top of that data, we start to train models that were not only AI-driven, but they were AI plus human working in partnership. Because when we are mapping culture, it's absolutely fundamental that you have local people from the different countries you want to understand, training the model with the local cultural nuances that are relevant there. And this is what we've been building in the last years. We have like this massive network of what we call cultural localizers. In each country we operate, they were consistently training the model to make sure we're capturing those nuances at a local level. So once you develop this, you have what we call this proprietary cultural ontology, and that is the starting point to understand that behavior. And the way we do this is basically organizing those behaviors in something we call cultural niches. And they are real cultural niches. We're all been hearing a lot about synthetic data. Synthetic data is great, but I promise, real data is even better. Like you have like those real cultural niches, like there's real millions and millions of people and billions of behavior behind that. And have more than 1 million niches already mapped throughout those years. And each one of those niches are communities. And once you understand those communities, you can understand, again, what is their behavior to understand their non-ephemeral behaviors. Not only the trend of the week, but what are those behaviors that are consistently growing over time? Because we all know strategic decisions demands data and insights to inform long-term strategy. So once you have this predictive model well designed, you can make better growth decisions. And those growth decisions goes behind, where should I play? How should I do it? And so on and so forth. So this is us. I saw that I need to end my presentation now. And this is also what we've been doing at Winnin. Those are a few of our clients that are scaling us big time. We have offices in Singapore, New York, Mexico, London, but we operate in every other country. Unfortunately, less China. So if you are interested to get to know more about what we do, come to talk with us. And if I give you like a last key message on something we've learned throughout this journey, is that culture really moved first. and markets follow. And once you can, close that gap and make better decisions with better intelligence, you unlock truly transformative growth. So this is us. This is my email. We're on the booth 121. Thank you so much for your attention and your time today.